Now I would like to go on with the second case study task and questions from the case study of the third module, which refers to IP process management. So, as you can see here, we have 9 different core processes which relates to IP management. The first is the development of an IP strategy. So this IP strategy should derive from the business strategy, so the general overall strategy. Should describe IP-related goals and ways to achieve these goals in accordance with the business model we have here. So yes, if we develop the IP strategy, after that, of course, it's obvious we need to generate IP. We should do this in a systematic and goal-oriented design. And the IP portfolio, which is generated there, should fit to the IP requirements which we defined in the IP strategy in the first point here. Next core process is the IP administration. After we create such an IP portfolio, we need to administrate that. We should provide a reasonable overview of the IP inventory, for example, to pay maintenance fees and to ensure that the IP is already has a legal status. In force. Next point is IP risk management. We need to manage this risk which comes through IP, through our own IP and third-party IP. We can do it by monitoring, for example, if we check the IP situation in our business case, which is related to our business model. Next point is next process, IP enforcement. Of course, if we have IP, we should get sure that our IP will not, or not our IP, our business model will not be infringed. So we need to be sure that we have our exclusivity in this case. And of course, if you can sue someone out of your IP, it's also possible that some third party will sue you out of their IP. And so we need an IP-related defense in the next core process. This process should respond to IP-based attacks by third parties and lawful handling of disputes. As well, we have the IP transaction as a core process. IP transactions covers acquisitions and exploitation of IP, for example, mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures or collaborations are conceivable in this context. Next core process of IP management is IP reporting. You should create a transparency and check if all the investments are beneficial to your company and for the business model. And as well, you could give a report to the C-level management so that they can be sure that the investments in IP are useful in this case. Last but not least, the IP awareness. Of course, you should raise the awareness of IP in your company. You should create an appropriate understanding of all stakeholders to get an understanding of the economic effect or economic impact of IP in the business model.
One important IP management core process, as already mentioned by Oliver, is the generation of IP. And the generation of IP as one IP management core process consists of several sub-processes, and we just discussed some sub-processes with the examples of 2 different flavors of IP rights, which are patents and trademarks. So for the case of patents, we first start with the business model and look in this business model what elements, what parts of the business model are at least accessible to patent rights, which is just a necessary prerequisite to have some exclusifying with IP in this aspect. So we identify which parts of the business model are accessible for patents, which are typically inventions. Then we acquire invention disclosures during the development of our business model, and then, as we know, it's not just important what we can protect, but IP management is about what we want to protect, and so we detect which relevant features are, or which features of our technical solutions are relevant for our customers. So with these aspects at hand, we can then really decide which IP we want to, or which patents we wanted to file, which exclusification via IP rights we really need. So after we have done this decision, we can then just prepare the patent application, as you all know, or then just accompany the respective prosecution process. So these sub-processes then basically constitute then the generation of IP as one core process. Well, for the case of trademarks, we start with the business model as well. So we have communication to the customer. So we want to communicate what's really special about our business, and so we identify some core elements which are accessible to trademarks. Of course, not anything that we want to make exclusive for our business is really possible to exclusify because of legal restrictions for trademarks. So we have to shape a little bit the elements potentially to make them accessible for trademarks. And when we have identified and done the respective processes, then with the next sub-process we have to decide which exclusification we really want to achieve then. So we apply for a trademark, and the next sub-process are then the preparation of the trademarks and the trademark applications, and then the prosecution process, as you all know.
We would like to give an overview, as a matter of fact, a much more detailed overview of one of the sub-processes in the IP management core process, and in particular one of the workflows that belong to the IP administration sub-process. So here, this part of the activity really involves the contribution of several parts of the company, as a matter of fact. So we have the intervention of the IP administration department, for sure, the IP manager, but also what we really need, it is really indispensable, it is the cooperation and knowledge of the product manager and other business functions, the R&D functions most of the times of the company. So how does it work? Well, this is the process that we have in place to make decisions on which part of the IP portfolio we want to keep and which part of the IP portfolio we want to prune or abandon over time. So we expect to go through this process once a year, and again, as we said, the IP administration department is charged with the task of clearly extracting the information on the patent portfolio, and in particular of the IP rights for which a decision has to be made. Of course, they will extract the information and present it in a understandable manner to the product manager. So we have developed proper templates so that the information can be read and understood. So the product manager is provided with a list with this, of course, files on which you will find the information and will allow him to give an opinion. So he will make a proposal, and then the IP manager will combine all this information and prepare what we call a steering committee. So at this step, this is where you need all the people around the table, like we heard last night. In fact, you need to have, for sure, the IP department or the IP manager, which is responsible for the portfolio, the relevant product managers and the R&D or research representative that know the technology and can help in making the decision. So at the end of the stage, you need to have your decision. So you have to leave this meeting with your decisions in hand. So for each patent family, and the decisions, of course, are, only 3. 1, you abandon completely the patent family, and then the information is provided to the IP administration team that is going to take the appropriate steps so that you no longer pay renewal fees or take any actions on the file. The patent family is impartially maintained, so you abandon some of the patent family members, and again, the IP administration team will take care of taking the actions on the patent members that you want to abandon, and on the other ones you will continue to pay maintenance fees, or your patent family remains untouched and it will remain as it was at the beginning of the cycle.
As Bjorn explained, we have a sub-process in terms of the patent and trademark. And we are going to explain what is a sub-process and what is the input-output in each process. And in case of the patents, there are 5 sub-processes. First sub-process is identification of the IP-related business model elements. Input is a business model description. It means information of the business model in terms of the company. And output is a defined IP requirement. And the second sub-process is processing of the invention disclosure. And the input is invention disclosure. It means internal disclosure information, which is from inventor to the IP division. And output is formal invention disclosure. It is more specific technological information description compared to the input. And third sub-process is detection of the customer relevant features. Input is a description of the innovation, not invention, innovation. And output is a source for the IP protection. It means specific information of the IP based on the innovation. And fourth sub-process is decision on the IPR application. Input is formal invention disclosure. And output is application decision. It means more specific information for the IP. For example, which country, how many families, so on. Final sub-process is preparation of the patent application. And regarding this sub-process, input is a formal invention disclosure as well. And output is a patent application. It means filing patent application.
I will now present an example of the sub-process of generation of IP with respect to trademarks. The trademark is the sign which distinguishes our products and services on the market and indicate that these goods or these products or services originate from our company. So the first and most important step of this process is to identify the design or the elements which will be used to communicate our product or service on the market and to identify how our goods and services, our products and services will appear in the marketing materials. This means that we have to identify a word. It could be a picture or logo, it could be a slogan, it could be a sound or shape, or a combination between them. And why is this important? Because on this basis, we have to identify the relevant IP requirements. Once the leading communication element is defined, we have to determine the protectable forms and to decide which will be the sources of our IP protection. And then on the basis of this, we can decide on the basis of this we have to carry out an availability search in order to identify if there are earlier rights on the market which might be detriment to our IP protection. And on the basis of this availability search, we'll be able to identify the sign which is which best serves for our product or service, the goods and services to which it will be applied, and also we have to decide which will be the applicant for this protection, because trademark registration requires use of the sign. And as soon as we have these elements, we can work on the preparation of the trademark application and the necessary documents to file in the respective countries.
The IP management process is carried out by the people of the organization. So it's very important to assign the process functions to the corporate functions, and also very important to describe their tasks in the IP management processes. Said this, in the process management we can distinguish the process manager, for instance, being his or her task the definition of the required IP management process landscapes, or also being the responsible for the documentation of IP management process. And this process function of the process manager could be assigned to the CTO. Another process function in the process management is the process owner, being, for instance, his or her tasks, the definition of the limits of the IP management processes, and also leading the teams for IP management process creation and development in the organization, and also monitoring and auditing the IP management process itself. And another process function in this process management is the process leader. The process leader, for instance, can have the tasks of planning and implementing the IP management processes along the organization, and also training the participants of those processes. And this function could be assigned to the IP manager. And finally, we have the process users that usually they carry out the IP management processes, and this can be is assigned to the IP manager, IP administrators, and the service providers of the processes.
We heard a lot of the topics innovation and IP, and somehow these two topics have to interact, and there must be an interface between these two big topics, innovation and IP. So what do? We divide the innovation process up into 5 parts. First part, idea generation, based maybe on a SWOT analysis. So we look for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. In a second part, there is product planning. So we found out what we have, what ideas we have, which are good. We make a product planning and look at the economic and technical feasibility. In a third part, we go to the development and the product design. So this is getting more and more concrete. When the product is developed, it has to be tested, and there will be a validation. We have a prototype and serious development. So how can we manufacture it? How can we install the process? And finally, we have the production and the market launch. So this is a process of the innovation. And how does IP fit in here? So in the first part of the innovation, we have to evaluate the related IP of the field of innovation which we have chosen finally. And in the second part, we can develop our IP strategy. And with this development of this IP strategy comes also a prior art search. This prior art search is not only related to prior art which is free, but also related to still living patents. So this would be the starting point of the prior art search. The third part of our innovation process is development. What will we do on the IP side? In this position, we identify the relevant technical features which are necessary to fulfill the customer needs. So we look what is the customer paying for, what technical features do we need to fulfill these needs, what the customer is paying for, and will have then the possibility to generate IP rights, so patents on these technical features. But there are also non-technical features probably involved in our product. This might be a design, and so we can also file design patents. So, and during this period, we continuously look at prior art, and in the beginning, we look at especially basic patents. We don't know exactly right now if this is also theoretically whether we'll have incremental improvement or radical innovation. So depending on this, we also have to look at radical technology patented or only incremental improvements which were patented. And this is continuing to the end, but we are not at the end yet. Here the part is test and validation of the prototype series. At this point of time, all should have been also already done regarding filing IP. And when we go to the market, also the freedom to operate analysis should be at the end, so that we won't infringe any other IP.